What were the portions of the homework?
Alaba.
Mhm.
I guess it was about homework was about to go through the entire Glad-Tidings thing, and whatever you understand, you try to tell it, like write a paragraph.
Mhm.
And it was also about the 15th Glad-Tidings. You told us to go through it and tell us what it tell what it means.
Mhm.
Like what it means. Yeah, I think that's what I'm looking here.
I'm not sure, but something about the administrative order, the government also get to find some issues and how the Baha'i things.
In 15th Glad-Tidings, because Baha'u'llah is asking for monarchy to be back, right?
Hmm.
So what are your thoughts? Do you have any thoughts, Mira, on that? How would it look like? What needs to happen?
Basically, it's like talking about. Oh yeah, Mira. Yeah, okay. Mira.
What I've gotten is issues in the government, but I didn't really understand that the homework very well about that because I got like issues such as corruption and political polarization, and so
Yeah.
that's the other thing. The homework on the 15 that tidings though, what I've gotten is 1 second. Can I just order my thoughts and then
Sure. I'll go with Carmel first then. All right, Carmel, what was your paragraph?
It was like I just like understood about how Baha'u'llah is telling that it's important to have like a constitutional monarchy because it's telling about majesty of kingship is one of the signs of God. Like that part, I felt that it shows that how important kingship is, that how he's telling about that he doesn't want any of the countries to be deprived of it. So basically, I think kingship. When I had gone social classes, they had told about how when they have a kingship and a constitution together. So basically, a constitution has functions on the laws and passes orders, whereas the monarchy doesn't have such kind of power, but it does have some kind of influence on the government, which can help in progress of the entire country. So that is what I had like understood with that one, and on the 15th para is like about how before in previous religions like the holy war and the burning of the books of the holy books, that is not allowed here. And it's telling about how we must be grateful that that we have attained the that we have been able to get the essence of what Baha'u'llah has been trying to tell us, or what Baha'u'llah is trying to teach us, and how we must thank God that we are being able to attain this. And Baha'u'llah tells that not even a myriad of endowed with myriad tongues were to continually praise God and magnify His name. So we owe that much of thanks to God that not even our myriad tongues can describe.
Because He's given us answers to our problems, right?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Good. Anybody else had penned any thoughts? Mira, are your thoughts together, or we should?
So the 15 tidings are a message of hope and guidance for humanity. And so the first tiding is how holy wars should end. Means abolishment holy wars and promoting peace. And everyone has a freedom to follow their religion and bring all people as one. And education should be available to everyone. One should be treated equally to men, and how knowledge and science are both important, and everyone should work together to make decisions, and like, that's what the 15 Glad-Tidings. I mean, the first few Glad-Tidings.
All right. So when we read these things, one of the idea was to look at our systems and deeply and see where the problems are, right? So even if you say, when you say corruption is a problem, then why that is a problem needs to be known, right? So it's one thing to see a problem, but unless we get to the root cause of it, you cannot actually correct it, right? So, for example, let's say the racism issue. If we just say that, we should force people to like all sorts of skin colors, that's not going to happen. You cannot force people to like something, right? So you have to understand why. So we present it from the angle that people's stations are according to their characters, not their skin colors in the sight of God. You come from that angle that God has given. And that once you start looking and training yourself to look at people from that self, everything else will go away, by the way, right? And we have we have learned that through experience, that when you look at somebody's character and they're an amazing character, nothing else matters. It doesn't matter if they're short, if they're skinny, if they're fat, if they're white, if they're black, if they're blue, if they're green, right? Where they came from, what their background was, what their religion was or is, and so forth and so on. If they are an amazing character, you all want to sit down with them and you all want to be friends with them, right? It's made into all of us. So you need to know where the cause of a thing is and how to then deal with it. When we look at problems and we come up with some surface issue, because that seems like that's the issue, and you start like bombarding to try to fix it, you see in societies nothing's getting fixed, right? So a lot of that prejudice is educational issue. We don't educate ourselves where our priorities should be, how we should look at things, how we should talk to ourselves or children, with each other and all that. When parents in the households point a finger to somebody or pull up their nose at somebody's station or rank or class or color, guess what? Kids pick it up. When you're very little, you don't know these things, right? When kids are very, very small, they don't care. You put 5 different looking kids, a 1-year-old together, they'll all play the same. What do they push back against? What do they don't like when they're playing together? Not somebody's skin color. They don't care what kind of clothes they're wearing or what kind of households they come from, if they're rich or poor or whatever, right? What do they push back at? What do they dislike? If there is a kid that is bully, right? If a kid is a bully and doesn't know how to play together and is pushing and hurting other kids, doesn't matter what his skin color is, doesn't matter if he's wearing the worst clothes or the best clothes. If he has the worst skin color or the best skin color of society, the kids don't care, right? The little children don't care. They care that how he's acting or she's acting towards them, right? So from the very young age, it's our actions or character that matters to ourselves. And if we can raise ourselves and educate on that same ground and same level, then these other issues won't matter. Other than that, that's what the God has created all of us equally, means to respect every human being, that they're human being and they are a sign of God on this earth. All the rest of the stuff would be here. We will be poor and we will be rich. We will be dark and we will be light. All of that would be here. It's the world, God has made it that way, right? If your capacity is larger than mine, you inevitably will make more money than me. So as soon as your capacity is different, your outcome in life would, on all of those scales, would be different. We cannot undo that. It's the communism that tried to undo that, and it caused hundreds of millions of deaths. It didn't succeed in anything because it's against the human nature, right? Because it breaks down. If you have so much more capacity, if you have 100% more capacity and I am just here, and then You make $200 and I make $200. What makes you think that after a few months you will want to actually put out your capacity? Whatever, when you make an effort and your effort is larger, it needs to be rewarded. Reward and punishment, right? But it seems like everybody's punished, so to speak, rather than rewarded. And because I can only do this much, you only earn this much too. So you are actually punished for my capacity rather than I be rewarded for your capacity. Or vice versa. If I'm rewarded for your capacity and I just sit there forever, generation after generation, month after month, do nothing, that too is demotivational to you, who's putting up more work. And slowly you don't work. And that's what happens, by the way, in all of the, wherever the communism was actually implemented, people became more and more lazier and lazier and lazier because there was no point working. Why would you do it? Why would you want it? Right? So it doesn't work. So we must have, and that's why the religion of God works, because he knows the natural causes of our problems. So on the same level then, if you're looking at the governmental issues, what is causing the corruption? Corruption is rampant. I mean, especially in India, for what I understand, and many other places, though you're not alone, right? What is causing it? So there are many, many aspects of it. On one of that for sure is how the government system and laws are made and work. Who is who? How you deal with those issues, right? So if, let's say, somebody took your money and they didn't return it, you don't have another agency that sees what you were selling something and what you were buying for and what you got and what you didn't. Here, if you pay somebody $1 extra by mistake, the next month you receive a check. They say you paid $1 extra, right? So the system is in place, not that every person maybe is personally so honest. Well, most people do become honest when the system is created that is honest. Some by nature are honest, the others would be forced by law to be honest, right? So it's amazing. Your bank has 50 cents more left on your thing because you closed it. They'll send you a check for it. 40 cents goes into the stamp that they put on the envelope, then many cents more would have gone into making that check for 50 cents. But they will send you the 50 cents check back. Because when they get audited and they kept your 50 cents, somebody else comes after them and says, this is corruption. Why did you keep that? Make sense? So you need to know that how do we train ourselves as our children to be honest from the young age? At the same time, what kind of systems a country is creating then enforces that honesty as well. And then you have light upon light, so to speak. So makes sense. So when you're analyzing things, then why is he asking that kingship should be brought back and constitutional monarchy should be brought back? Constitutional monarchy, Carmel, you dissected it right, that they don't have the powers of the Constitution and the elected government, but they have influence. They don't have the power, right? Power is with the laws and stuff and all that. Power means you can implement something. You can say it has to be this way and then it has to be that way. That's power. The constitutional monarchy, which we have only one example in the world right now that everybody can see, which is England, right? They don't have that power, but they have the influence, right? What else do they offer? What else a monarchy offers to a country? Which is, in legislation sense, it is built in our House of Justice sense too. It's the same thing. Anybody? It's the same quality. It's the same quality that is being given to the House of Justice for legislating subsidiary laws. Why? They don't have the power to create brand new laws against the writings or change anything in the writing. They don't have that power. But they have the power to legislate subsidiary laws, and God has granted that for what? Anybody knows the main reason why that is given? What is that for? Flexibility and continuity, right? Because if a couple of 100 years after some issue arises that is not being talked in the writings, they still will look as a matter of the principle of the writings, which direction it goes, and create subsidiary laws. If you don't have that, that's where the previous societies really broke down, because the common people started then making laws and deciding what it needs and deciding which way to go, and they went somewhere else. And then you have divisions and all that kind of stuff that comes with it, right? So it's a flexibility and continuity of stuff. That's what the kingship allows you. A constitutional monarchy allows a continuity of policies. What is happening right now in the countries where you don't have that, especially let's say United States, because the powers are with the president. And yes, Constitution has powers, but the presidency has powers. So every 4 years when you change the president, a lot of policies change with it. So the world can't really trust you and be friends with you because every 4 years you keep on switching to what you want to do. England doesn't do that. Their foreign policy most of the time is very consistent, right? Because the system at one level has that consistency. So yes, they can change things within their country and other things and all that, but some things stay consistent. And within the government too, if you have somebody who is higher than you in rank and station and position, that can look down and say, nah, right? The House provides that for the lower houses of justice. The Universal House of Justice provides that for the NSAs and the LSAs, which are all houses of justice. But the LSAs and NSAs are responsible and answerable to the Universal House of Justice, right? So they provide that guidance, so to speak. So there'll be a continuity of things. When you look at how countries are breaking down, because we have become very nationalistic after the Second World War, by the way, we weren't these many countries before that. There were empires, right? So there are few empires and then few other countries, but now we are every nation for itself standing. It's chaos in the world, right? So that's one thing. Another side to reflect is, and think about this and see what thoughts you come up with. I personally don't think he's talking about every country having a king, right? I personally think Baha'u'llah is saying having a king for the globe. Why do you think I have that thought? I'm not saying that's correct thought, but I'm just basing it for what I understand of the writings. If I have that thought, what do you think I'm basing that on? Why? Anyone? Rihanna, were you saying something or you just, okay. Is there a fly in the room? No.
But
Any-
one country citizens?
Yes.
Yeah, the world as a one country, so one leader, that's why.
Because it would be a federated system, right? So
One
it
of
wouldn't be one country as only one government for the whole globe, though. Every country will have its own government. That's why Baha'u'llah has called it federated system is very different, right? So right now you have, let's say, Commonwealth, or you have British is what? They have 15 or 19 realms under the king that he's actually in charge of. And then you have Commonwealth, which is different, right? So all of those, for example, they have their own governments. Ireland has its own government, but the king is still their king, right? Scotland has their own government, so to speak, and all that. And whatever other realms they have under, they have their own governments. The best example for that side is United States, because you have 50 countries together. These are 50 countries that chose to have a federated government and have become we become one country. Everybody considers us one country, but these are actually 50 countries under one federate government that unites them on issues that they need to be united on: border issues, trade issue between yourself, and so forth and so on, right? And many other things, because like state to state, you have provinces. Every province has its own government, but it needs to do trade with the next province. If the country is under war or under attack or under whatever, how do you get united to do those kind of things? Then you have a federal government then oversees those issues, right? But federal government does not see my state's day-to-day business. My state's day-to-day business is my state's business, and my state government runs it. Make sense? So that state government is autonomous in itself in most cases. Only in some cases it's not, and that's where when it has to deal with its borders and other states, then the federal government has more control over it. Makes sense? So every country, Baha'u'llah says, fix the borders and then don't have fights. So we will have our borders, we'll have our countries, we'll have our governments. But you have a federated system that oversees the globe, and it doesn't see your daily lives. if I understand it right. It doesn't see your state's daily lives for what happens day-to-day business. It sees to where you are now dealing with each other and dealing with other people and dealing with this and that. And of course, some level of scrutiny about no nation should make such laws that are detrimental to its people, right? So if that happens in a state, for example, then you can go to federal and appeal it there and say, hey, this is wrong. What needs to happen? And in some cases, the federals can come and say, you can't do that because it's, why? Because everything, again, as a matter of principle, has to run by the Constitution. Constitution is something that is binding on all the states equally, right? Nobody's immune from it. So constitutional monarchy, then you will have a federated government on this globe that is run by a by a global constitution. The governments will have to make that. The peoples will have to make that. And I'm quite sure that the House of Justice would be involved with it. But we will see how it evolves and where it goes, right? So if there is a Baha'i country and they're running it, they will have to run it according to the Baha'i law, right? If it's not a Baha'i country, then how would it do? What kind of law would evolve globally that is then peaceful with everybody else, and yet everybody's allowed to have their own religions? The religions have their own laws too. They should have freedom under that. They will have freedom for that. So all of that will sort it out, which is to some degree sorted out in the world, actually. We have a lot, very diverse in many countries and stuff like that. So got the point? Like, you need to look at from those angles to say, why is he saying that? And what are the problems we are seeing right now? We created a very unique system in the world that we didn't have before. The democratically elected governments and the way our nations run right now, we never had that until recently, right? So it's a very recent civilizational change on the globe, and it is showing up problems. It has strengths, of course, it has strengths against those issues that we had before, but it is showing up major amount of problems as well everywhere. How would those problems be resolved in the light of the writings? What are the strengths that the answers are bringing? Make sense? So think about these issues when you have time. Make time and think about those. And that's where your idea of presentation of where the answers are is going to get strengthened. If you don't understand where the issue is and you just keep on saying, oh, he wants this, people will push back because we let go of monarchy. People are against it, right? People are against having kingship and stuff like that. So what would happen then? Another issue is monarchy is not something you pick something up in the street and say, okay, you are the monarch now, and then tomorrow there is somebody else. There's a hereditary issue to it. We have to think about that too. Which royal families are left in the world that still can take the charge, such as that? That would be an issue too, right? So, because if it's just electing somebody, then we do have elected representatives. It doesn't represent monarchy. Make sense? So all of these issues, think about these. That's what the world needs. We need the answer to change the systems, right? Right now, the world is running after, oh, if this person wins or that person wins, and they fight about it and they're so divided. But that person cannot change the kind of change people want because the system itself is crippled. The system itself doesn't allow you to be united and move forward in a different direction, right? So we must then, those of you that should know the answers, should be sharing it with the world, and slowly the thought process changes to say, okay, these are the problems. These are the places we need to change, not just the face of a person every 4 years or 5 years or whatever you're doing in elections, right? The way our election system had been implemented and the way our party system had been implemented, which is forbidden in the faith, right? It is creating divisions. It's not creating unity, right? And it's very, very obvious when you pay attention to it. Okay. Any other thoughts or comments on that or questions? And we have spoken about this before in one of the sessions. I remember that the writings are not calling for open borders, the way the open borders are discussed in the world right now, and half world wants it and half doesn't. Baha'u'llah, why? Because Baha'u'llah does implement the rule of law. If your borders have certain laws, then whoever want to come in, they must come in legally, and they must adhere to your legal systems, right? It's binding on people to abide by the law of the place they live in, right? So everything stems from that. Then Baha'u'llah says, fix your borders so you won't have battles. That means countries will have their own fixed borders and their own autonomy to how they want to run it. So you can't just willy-nilly go whichever, right? At the same time, when you do create a federated system, right now I can go in any state anytime I want. I can live any place I am able to live. But if I break the law, I go to jail, same as anyone else, right? So there will be these things that will be developed for future for us to, how do we live together? Or this globe will blow itself up. Elimination of holy war. Elimination of holy war takes Iran out of their agendas for what they want to do right now, right? God has abrogated it. You cannot wage war against others because they are of some other religion. That's what holy war is. God has abrogated it, and that's why now they are the bad guys, because as soon as God takes something out, even though that thing was good just yesterday, it's not good anymore because he doesn't want it, right? So they keep on pushing for it, that's what they understand, because if they don't move forward with God's new law, then they stick with whatever. By the way, they're breaking that too. They're not doing what the Quran says they're doing, right? If they actually would follow what the Quran says they should follow, then none of this situation you would see. There's that. But even if they were going to try to follow exactly what the Quran says, that law has been abrogated. It will never work. Read the history of mankind, read the history of religion. As soon as God says no more, then it's no more. It doesn't matter how much longer you bang your head on the wall, because that's all you understand, and you say, I'll keep on doing that. It will not work. It doesn't work. Because the life has been taken out of it. The word of God has life in it. You notice that, you see that, right? When you try to understand it and implement it as best close possible as it's been given, it really flourishes. It flourishes. And when you do the opposite of it, no matter what strengths you put behind it, you do the opposite of it, it doesn't work. It does not work, right? And that should be a sign for ourselves too in our own communities. If you're implementing things, doing things that are not bringing the forthcoming results that should be, then maybe you should delve back into the writings and say, maybe we're not doing it right. Maybe we're not doing the right thing, right? All right. So next ones, unless you have anything to add, TARAZÁT. And we are from Aryan, I think is the first to read.
I have a
Yes.
question actually. I have
Sorry?
a question.
Yes.
I have a question, like when you said the holy war is no more, like but even in the Islam, the classes we learn, as far as I understood, the Hazrat Muhammad never wanted war.
Yes.
Like he defended it.
Yes.
Whenever there was war, he just defended it. And when he says the mutilation of the body is not like, that thing, then war leads to the mutilation of the body, basically. So when today then it was war, today it's bomb. So then it's more mutilated. So then if you followed, as far as I understood from your classes, like, then that is what you said is they're against the holy book.
Holy war is very specific, right? So we must understand that war altogether is not forbidden. By qualifying that it's the holy war that is being abrogated, which means you don't wage war with people because they are of another religion. That cause should not be there. But defense is allowed still, even in the Baha'i writings. It was actually only defense that was allowed by God from time immemorial in any scriptures. It's the believers and the people who manipulated that, right? And then they make excuses to say, oh, well, I consider this defense too. Well, not everything is defense. But defensive wars were always allowed and still are. Future countries will have armies, right? Future Baha'i countries will have armies. But Baha'u'llah said to eliminate the size of it, the armament of it, to stuff and so forth and so on, right? And so, for example, that's why if everything goes hand in hand, if you have a federated globe, since United States has been made under the Constitution, there has been no war between its 50 states. When we first started, there were 13. Some of them were fighting with each other. And then you had Civil War too, and they were fighting with each other over the slavery issue and stuff like that. But there is no wars between states. There is no need for it. They do see themselves as one country, even though they're 50 countries together, right? So by creating that system, it's already eliminated your problems. Now, if you have trade problems between each other and all that, the federal government takes care of it. Your own dialogues take care of it. You have meetings and so forth and so on, because you're autonomous, right? So if the globe is running that way, then first and foremost, you have curbed that problem. Now, within these 50 states, every type of religious people live, every type of religion exists, every type of background, this is the most diverse country in the world. So there are people like me who come from all sorts of places, and now we are Americans, right? Your cultural heritage was different, your languages were different, your food and this and that and everything, but now we are Americans, so you live as this. So if the whole globe will turn like that, most of your contentions will go away to start with, right? So that's that. But mutilations of bodies is very different than when you're waging war and somebody dies or gets cut off. Because even in the defensive wars, when you took the sword out and we didn't have the bombs, people died. People die in the wars. That's not murder. Murder is a different issue. We can't call somebody who dies in a war murder, because we manipulate the language so much that we have lost the sight of where things are at and where the balance should be, right? So when somebody attacks you and you are defending yourself, then people will die, right? People will die. But the mutilation of bodies were what Iranians have done to the Babis and Baha'is, and many others are doing, right? Digging up dead people, or somebody's dead and now you keep on cutting them off because you're so angry. Because war was not supposed to be vengeance. Defensive war is not about vengeance. Defensive war is about stopping somebody to not come and manipulate and hurt and kill your people. That's it, right? To let you live in peace. So that defense was always allowed in not almost, every faith allowed defensive wars. And that's what Abdul Baha said when he was giving the table talks, to say, when we say it's better to be killed than to kill, what does that mean? That's on an individual level. That's not that my country should decide that, oh, my people can all be dead, you can go come and kill us. No, the country's job is to provide me security and defense against whoever wants to hurt me. That's the institution's job, right? So that's why even within our own institutions, the mercy is individual issue. If somebody hurts me, I should try to be as merciful as possible, as forgiving as possible. Institution's job is not to be merciful. Institution's job is to implement the law, punish the culprit who had done wrong. Justice requires that. That's why the Guardian lamented, and he said the common Baha'is run around trying to be LSAs, and LSAs are running around trying to be, common Baha'is. LSA's job is not to implement mercy. LSA's job is to implement justice. My personal issue is that as a person, if somebody has hurt me, I have the right to justice. But God says if you can do mercy, he loves that better. But mercy is not required. Make sense? Justice is required. So defensive war is allowed. Defensive war will happen until God knows how long. But Baha'u'llah said that eliminate the sizes of it, because if the causes have been eliminated, you shouldn't have reason to go to war. What are the causes that are eliminated? The resources need to be managed by the federated government of the globe. That's what we fight over. We fight over natural resources. You should not have hatred for religion. Everybody has freedom to have their religion. There is no war on religion. Holy war has been abrogated. That whole issue has gone away, right? The trade should be free, tariff-free trade between countries. That's in the writings too. So then you can grow and prosper according to your capacity and endeavor. There is no other limitations on you. It's mostly those kind of choking things that make people get up and then fight and stuff like that, because they feel they can't do what they otherwise should be doing, right? So the root causes of what human beings fight over have been eliminated, abrogated in the writings. If we can train ourselves and teach our children that way and grow up that way, I don't have ever any thought of war against any of my Indian friends anymore, right? Even though those countries are fighting and half of you are from one side and I am from the other side. Never had the thought in my head at all. It already eliminates that issue, right? So, yeah, so when people get killed or cut up and this and that in a war, in a just war, that's not mutilation of bodies. And that's not murder. But that's what we keep on calling outside right now. And that's why things are very, very complicated, because we are misusing the language, right? A murder is in a common life when you go and kill somebody, a person. When people die in war, that's not murder. It's harsh, it's terrible, it's very sad. We should try our many best to not do it, but that's not murder. All right. And dying in an unjust war is not martyrdom either. All right. Everybody that dies under a bomb is not martyr. There are specifications in the religions for who a martyr was. That's another misuse of language. Now somebody dies under a rickshaw and he's a martyr. So you have totally like manipulated the essence of the words. They don't mean anything anymore, right? All right. Then the words matter. They should be used carefully.
Vizalanti,
Yes.
I have a question from the 10th Glad-Tidings.
Yeah.
What does it mean by destruction of books?
That was a law of the Bob. He had said that because, remember when the whole issue of that the wealthy cannot get into heaven is not really an idea of money wealth. It is the knowledge wealth. Because when we think that we are very knowledgeable, we become very proud of our knowledge. And it shuts down the brain, and you don't really, if you are that way, if you're proud of your knowledge, then that hinders you to learn the things of God, right? Baha'u'llah talks about that in Gleanings in one of the places, that he means this kind of wealth. So it's better to not have that kind of wealth and be able to have an open mind that actually can hear and adhere to the truth when it comes to you. So because of this issue, I remember when in the early history, most of the mullahs and most of the this and that, they had declared themselves at the highest level of knowledgeable people. And when God's word came, they denied it because they said it didn't fit their knowledge, right? It didn't fit their knowledge. That's why the first paragraph of Igan says, put everything aside when you hear the news of God. Everything. Not that everything was bad, but for when you come to study this, put all of your preconceived ideas on the side. Read it with a clean mind as if you didn't know anything else at all, and see what God is trying to teach you, right? Because of this issue that human beings had, the Bab actually had a law, and he said, burn all the books. And only pay attention to the one whom God will make manifest. Whatever he gives you, just do that when it comes, and burn all the books. They never did, by the way. It was never implemented, but the law was issued. That is the law Baha'u'llah has abrogated. And it has other repercussions, of course, like Baha'u'llah says in one of that you're allowed to read whatever you want to read. You should discern where's good and bad. You should be taught that from very young age, discern truth from falsehood. Discern what is good and what is bad, what smells good and what smells bad. And if you have that discernment, it's actually good to discern it. How does that discernment come from? It comes from the study and experience and stuff like that. But I should be guided right to where it needs to go, right? Now, there is a restriction on the covenant breaker material, which came to us because of the authoritative interpreters to say, yes, you can read whatever, but this kind of stuff, avoid it. Avoid it because it beguiles your own mind, right? So a lots of times people will delve into wrong things because they think they're strong enough, but they're not. We all think we are strong enough. Why read something that puts wrong images and smelly stuff into your nostril? You don't willingly go and eat poison when you know it will kill you, right? If you know by mistake, you can eat bad food that hurts you and makes you sick. But if you knew the food was bad and it will hurt you or kill you, you don't go and eat it, right? The spiritual stuff is the same way. Why would you delve into things that you know are going to destroy your heart and mind? Don't go there, right? But it should not be imposed by a government, by a this or that or the other. Baha'u'llah has taken that authority away from them, right? It's your own freedom, but freedom must be used responsibly, right? What does Baha'u'llah says about liberty in the Kitab-i-Aqdas? If it crosses its bounds, it is as deadly as anything else. It becomes very deadly. Liberty, if it crosses its bounds, it becomes very deadly. And we see that in the world, right? You're allowing 4 or 5-year-old kids to decide about things that they have no idea how to decide about things. And by the time they learned that they were deciding about themselves something really wrong, their whole life has been destroyed. That's not the kind of liberty we want to have, right? So yeah, that's the law that he was abrogating about burning of the books. Don't burn the books. But the books books were never burned. A law was issued, but it was never implemented. Sorry, go. Who was?
Give Quran reference related with this. Quran reference.
Quran is what? Sorry, I couldn't hear you. The voice is breaking up. Quran is what?
Quran reference related to this. What we are discussing today, no?
Again, the voice, the sound is breaking. Ariana, could you repeat? Maybe you're closer to the mic. The sound is breaking. I can't discern what you're saying. The Quran is.
Yeah. I want Quran reference related to this point.
To Quran reference to the destruction of the books?
Yeah.
No, that was the Bob's law. The Quran talks nothing about the destruction of the books.
Okay.
It's the religious, the clergy side for both Christians and Muslims and previous ones had decided that they need to decide how to control people, and they should decide what people should or shouldn't do, but that power was never given to them, right? Baha'u'llah abrogates the power of the clergy, but that power actually was never given to them by God. It was always taken by themselves and people given it to them, right? Egon is very clear about that. So naturally, you see in your societies, if somebody you get impressed with somebody and you give them more power than you should have. And they take more power than they should have. Make sense? So the moment you go to somebody else and say, hey, what should I do about this? Unless you're consulting on the basis of the writings, which is our job to do. But if you just, because you're impressed with somebody, you don't want to go read anything, you don't want to know anything, you just keep on going to somebody, say, because they know better. And maybe they do know better, they study and they know better. It's not that they don't. So you keep on going to them and say, tell me how to do this and tell me how to do this. Guess what happens over the years and time? Guess if in sometimes their opinions were wrong, you kept on implemented that onto your life. But it's not only their fault. They sincerely told you whatever they understood needs to happen. You put your whole life into somebody else's hand. In the end, when things break down, you blame them. But you put your life into somebody else's hand. And Baha'u'llah is calling responsibility on both ends. Right? So if you come to me to say, hey, what do you think about this? So far, and pray God keeps you that way always, you only advise to what the writings are calling for. Put it on the table. This is what Baha'u'llah wants. You decide what you want to do with it. I am safe and you're safe. If I would start giving out whatever I gleaned out of those things as my opinion, that opinion could be right or wrong. You respect me so much that I gave you my opinion, even though and you don't read the writings at all. So you don't know if my opinion is right or wrong. Whose fault is that? That's not my fault to start with. Make sense? If you don't read the writings and you don't know, you don't understand if my opinion is right and wrong, that's not my problem. That part is not my fault. That part is your fault. Making a wrong opinions onto the writings without seeing the whole and without being humble and without knowing that, no, the writings have the power, I don't, that part is my fault. But you not studying the writings and not knowing where my opinions are is your fault, not my fault. Make sense? We often put too much into somebody else's basket, and that's why the things don't work for us either. And yes, Baha'u'llah condemns the leadership, that type of leadership that took too much power, either because they wanted to have power or because they were ignorant and they didn't understand that they were ignorant. And they ended up misguiding people. Baha'u'llah puts a big, huge label onto that. But it does not dissolve us from our responsibility. He's very clear about that. He's like, if you didn't give them that, they wouldn't have it. You blindly followed them. What does blindly following mean? So if we all study the writings and we all can actually discern the right thing, then consultation wouldn't be necessary, by the way. We all can't always discern the right thing. And even within that same person, if I can discern 10 things right, I might have discerned 2 other things wrong. So when we consult about that, you might have strength on that side. You didn't get these 10 things, but you got those 2 things right. So when we consult and all that, it gets put on the table, it opens up your vision towards the writings. All the consultation still has to open our eyes and heart and mind towards the writings. But we all have different visions. We have different colors, right? As Baha'u'llah says in the 7 Valleys, we're all different color bulbs. If I'm green, I see all things green. But I don't necessarily discern red and blues very well. If you're red, you see all red things, but you don't discern the other, so forth and so on. Makes sense? We are kind of, doesn't matter how strong we are limited within our own self, with our own capacity and personalities. Or personalities hinder our capacity, by the way, right? Let's say if you easily get angry, then somebody's done something, your immediate reaction is anger towards it. You can't even discern what the actual thing was. If you end up consulting with few friends, there is another friend on the table who's very patient, and you're consulting, they see that action in a very different light because that action didn't trigger their anger. They can see that action in a different light. They can put it on the table, and that wakes you up to say, oh, well, it made me so angry, I couldn't even see anything else, right? Because anger is very blinding, Abdul says. It's a very blinding emotion. Blinding means you can't see anything. So somebody else sheds a light on it to say, nah, like I complained that this person has said this and that, they meant this and that because I see from that color. And I don't see from that color. They consult with me and I say, no, actually this person's personality is that way. That's how they talk. They don't mean this, what you think they mean out of this, right? So when we consult that, then their eyes are open and say, yeah, I guess you're right, right? Because we all have this personality, means we all have this color. I talk in a certain way. And if that way grades on you, then you always misattribute meanings to me. And vice versa, right? And we are supposed to be very careful about it. So when we are openly talk, unfettered consultation, then those colors are put on the table for us to see that we ourselves maybe are not able or capable of seeing. Then the actual truth comes out. Make sense? So Abdul Baha says if there are 1,000 people in a room, 999 could be wrong. Truth, only one person might know the truth. Yes, voting is allowed for majority vote will work because sometimes you get stuck and there's no other way. But he says the best way is to keep on wanting to know the truth. And if one person has the truth, follow it. We are here to follow the truth, not to follow majority. Following majority is the second best, because sometimes we are human beings, we don't know what the truth is. Then you go with majority. But following majority is not the top goal. Make sense? So that element of democracy doesn't work the way we have implemented it. See, when you read all of these things, when you understand these things, then you know the points where the problems are. Right? So consultation because of that is necessary, but at the same time, reading and understanding the writings for ourselves, by ourselves, is binding on every one of us. Right? Binding on every one of us. And before that, by those writings, education is binded onto you. Educating yourself in the Word of God first, by the same writings, and then anything else, is bounded onto every single soul, every single human being. So we don't have much excuses, right? Okay. Make sense? All right. Shall we read a couple of them at least? We have only half an hour left, but that's okay. We need to, these are, for this time now, we are running the classes not just to finish the books, but to understand them, right? So hopefully we are doing the second level of things now, and it will take time. So it will take forever to finish this one, but we must understand these things. We must start thinking about these things and be better teachers, right? Okay.
Tablet of TARAZÁT, Ornaments.
Mhm.
In my name, which standeth supreme above all names, praise and glory beseem the Lord of names and the Creator of the heavens. He, the wave of whose ocean of revelation, surged before the eyes of the peoples of the world. The day star of his falls shineth through every wheel, and his word of affirmation standeth beyond the reach of negation. Neither the ascendancy of the oppressor nor the tyranny of the wicked hath been able to thwart his purpose. How glorified is his sovereignty, how exalted his dominion.
We have spoken about this many times. Baha'u'llah says, the writings, all the scripture says, God's power is equal to his purpose. He does not define things that cannot be done. They're always done, right? Look at the history of mankind and read those scriptures of those times. Whatever he ordained should be done has been done, right? Even though most of us maybe fail in implementing things. Next. Is it Arman? Yes.
Great God, although his signs have encompassed the world, and his proofs and testimonies are shining forth and manifest as the light, yet the ignorant appear heedless, nay, rather rebellious. Would that they had been content with opposition, but at all times they are plotting to cut down the sacred log tree. Since the dawn of this revelation, the embodiments of selfishness have, by resorting to cruelty and oppression, striven to extinguish the fire of divine manifestation. But God, having stayed their hands, revealed this light through his sovereign authority and protected it through the power of his might, until earth and heaven were illumined by its radiance and guidance. Praise be unto him under all conditions.
Right. So it's one thing to oppose it. It's another thing to keep on trying to kill it. Right. Opposing, as bad as it is allowed. It's a matter of my choice. I choose it to take it or not take it. That's within my realm. But trying to go and kill somebody because they are teaching or believing something else was never allowed. was never, ever, ever allowed, right? Even the certain amount of control on your children's thinking is done by the time they turn 15. You still have some further physical authority over them until they're 18 and 21, but spiritual one ends at 15. They decide for themselves what they want, right? As soon as you are asked to decide for yourself what you want, that's start of your personal responsibility and no control from anybody else. Guidance, yes. Daily guidance, daily vigilance can be, but force and authority, not so much, right? Leave alone trying to go kill your neighbor because they believe something else or somebody else. God has never allowed that. That's what he's lamenting. That it's not that they just want to oppose something or don't believe in it, but they want to keep on like wanting to kill it. Next.
Glory be unto thee, O Lord of the world and desire of the nations, O thou who hast become manifest in the greatest name, whereby the pearls of wisdom and utterance have appeared from the shells of the great sea of thy knowledge, and the heavens of divine revelation have been adorned with the light of the appearance of the sun of thy countenance.
Very simple and straightforward. Next.
Tazama.
It's not here, Iman.
I beg of thee, that word through which thy proof was perfected among thy creatures, and thy testimony was fulfilled among thy servants, to strengthen thy people in that whereby the face of the cause will radiate in thy dominion. The standards of thy power will be planted among thy servants, and the banners of thy guidance will be raised throughout thy dominions.
And how would we have such power of guidance in the world? Only if we live our lives according to what is given. Not just because we call ourselves by some name. It doesn't work, right? So a prayer from Baha'u'llah. Isha?
I'm gonna skip whoever's next.
Sorry?
Whoever's next. I'm gonna skip straight.
You are the next. Oh my Lord.
I said I'm skipping the reading. Whoever's
Oh,
next.
sorry, I couldn't hear. Mira.
O my Lord, thou beholdest them clinging to the rope of thy faith, and holding fast unto the hand of the manager of thy death. Ordain for them that which may draw them nearer unto thee, and withhold them from all else. I beg of thee, O thou King of Equity, and protector of the seen and the unseen, to make whosoever ariseth of thy cause as a sea moving by thy desire, as one ablaze with the fire of thy sacred truth, shining from the horizon of the heaven of thy will. Verily, thou art the mighty one, whom neither the power of all the world nor the strength of nations can meet thee. There is no God but thee, the one, the incomparable, the protector, the self.
So what is the essence of this prayer? That if we choose, which we should, which is our primary duty by the Akdas, right? To stand up and teach and serve. Our service is teaching, by the way, nothing else within these times. That's what the Guardian said. The service to the humanity is our religion, Abdul Baha said, right? What is religion? What is a Baha'i? Abdul Baha was asked. He said, religion is service to humanity. A Baha'i is who serves mankind. Then you have the next expounder, authoritative expounder, who expounded to you what service means, because we often misunderstand what service means. I think I should go and clean my road outside, and that's service to humanity, which it is. Or I should open a food pantry, or I should do this and that because people are suffering out there. Yes, all of those are services. But the Guardian said, what is my service? What is the service from Baha'is? Teaching the cause. That is the highest service the Baha'is can render to the world. Why? Because nobody else is going to do it. And all the answers to all the sufferings that hurt me, and I want to do those individual little things, are contained in the answers in spiritual transformation of the world according to the answers of the writings. If we became the kind of people God wants us to become, those issues will go away, right? So it's not like we're ignoring those issues. You keep on doing one issue at a time, it never goes away. There are 1,000,001 issues out there. But you take care of the root cause for what is causing the issues, then all the issues go away. A true, sincere Baha'i is the one who loves his kind, who loves this globe, who loves God, who loves to follow what God says, how to keep everybody clean and as many people helped as possible, and live a moral life and an ethical life and a sincere life. Be a sincere friend, be a sincere relative, be sincerely serving everybody. Can you imagine just that little few sentences? If we actually implemented that and I am that person, how much that cares for around me? And if every one of us is that way, then everything goes away, all problems gone away, right? I mean, we will create new problems, by the way, because that's the life is the school to learn. There would be other issues that would be created out of that sort of society, but we don't know what those would be now. We are here to curb and to cure what is happening so far. That's happening so far is because of our lack of caring spiritually for ourselves and for God and his creation. If we can focus on God and his love, which means then his love dictates and gives me the strength to be who I need to be, if majority of mankind, we can bring them to that, all of those issues will go away. Right? So the guardian said, if you keep on doing, I'm paraphrasing, and if you keep on running after every single problem, they never get resolved. But the root cause of the problem is developing this kind of character, which comes out of the writings only. That's what teaching is. Right? If he taught the world that mankind is one race, mankind is the citizen of this globe. If he had successfully taught that 100 years ago, you wouldn't have First World War, Second World War. You wouldn't have any of the wars that are happening right now. You see that? Our job, our service was to do teaching. But I think a lot of those other issues come because teaching is a long run endeavor, right? You get to see some results of it right away. Some results, it will take decades and centuries. I might not even see the final results within my lifetime. And we are the creatures of instant rewards. If you give somebody a can of food, you feel good about yourself. But don't fool yourself. That was not goodness for them, because they'll be hungry the next day again, and you are not there to give them another can of food. That kind of food you gave them today and didn't do them a long-term help was only about yourself, not about them. You give money to some charities and then you feel like, okay, I've done my work. Have you? So doing things that way is all about our own self, about feeling good about your own self. We think we have done some good to somebody else, but it's right. 2,000 years ago, Christ said, teach them to fish. That's where that whole thing comes from, right? If you give somebody a fish, they'll be hungry the next time, right? They'll be hungry again. That's the reality of life. As long as you live, you'll be hungry 3 times a day. If you've taken 10 people under your charge, are you going to feed them 3 meals a day then for the rest of their lives? Nobody does that. Why? Because nobody can. So where is the actual juice of service then to enable these people to live their own lives? So focus on the root causes and bringing up the thing that is long-term solution, not just a can of food to somebody today. The world is full of that kind of foods, by the way. And yet we are suffering so much. We produce so much food that is coming out of our ears in this world. and yet people are dying hungry. We have so much more money that we have ever dreamt of in the previous hundreds of years, and yet people are suffering because that's not where the solutions are, right? So teach the cause. So he's praying that once you are there, then you'll be focused on what he wants. Right? Focus what he wants, because what he wants is good for all of us. Everyone. Next. Neil. And if he's not there, then Rehana.
O thou who has quaffed the wine of mine utterance from the chalice of my knowledge, these sublime words were heard today from the rustling of the divine Lord tree, which the Lord of names had, with the hand of celestial power, planted in the old highest paradise.
Reshma? The first one is just the prayer, right? I mean, we shouldn't call it just a prayer. There are meanings very deep into it, but it's a prayer. First taraz. Reshma? You still with us?
Actually, where are we reading? Like, I know it's fourth one, but which paragraph?
It is first taraz. Did you find it, Han, or?
Somebody can continue, then next I will read.
Okay. All right. Ryan, if not, then Shimi.
The first taraz. Ryan is there? No. And the first effulgence which had dawned from the horizon of the mother book is that man should know his own self and recognize that which leadeth unto loftiness or lowliness, glory or abasement, wealth or poverty. Having attained the stage of fulfillment and reached his maturity, man standeth in need of wealth.
Standeth in need of wealth, and such wealth as he acquireth through craft or professions is commendable and praiseworthy.
In the estimation of men of wisdom, and especially in the eyes of servants who dedicate themselves to the education of the world and to the edification of its people. They are in truth cupbearers of the life-giving water of knowledge and guides unto the ideal way. They direct the peoples of the world to the straight path and acquaint them with that which is conducive to human upliftment and exaltation. The straight path is the one which guideth man to the dayspring of perception and to the dawning place of true understanding, and leadeth him to that which will redound to glory, honor, and greatness.
Right. So sweeping change into human mindset because of misreadings of the previous scriptures. We had sort of looked down and called money dirty, right? Almost in all cultures, there is this notion of money is dirty. It wasn't the money that was condemned in the Gospels by the Christ. It was the love of money that was condemned. Very different issue. See how little misreading of what was actually said, how long-lasting effects it had? God has never said, go be poor. God has always said to be prosper, actually. The very first command to Adam and Eve were, go multiply and prosper, all right? So they took that, okay, we should have 10 kids because that's prosper, but hate the money because it's dirty. How do you feed 10 kids if you don't have the money? Right? I mean, our own misreadings of things, misjudging of things, what is being said, has thousands of years of implications onto our society and our lives. What does Quran say? We wrong them not, but they wrong themselves. And why is that? Because we pick and choose. The scripture becomes a buffet table. I only like this taste, I'll pick that. I won't look at the whole thing to see where is it taking me. Baha'is are doing the same thing, right? The Baha'is to serve humanity, I'll go clean roads and there should my service is done. Did I pay attention to what my service was? I'm not defining that. The guardian has already. Why don't I know that? Why still are people outside doing all these things, wasting our time? Globally, we are engaged in all of those things. The guardian clear cut said that these will not resolve the issues. Do this, right? Long-term implications or misreadings or misjudgings or running after somebody else's understanding, by the way. Because that's where that stemmed too. Somebody else understood that, started implementing that. Everybody liked the idea. Everybody's running after that, but nobody's sitting back to say, wait a minute. Wait a minute. If I am devising all of those plans and those are taking 5, 6, 7 hours of my weekly time out, if you spend 7, 8 hours of that same hours into deepening yourselves to how to teach, can you imagine the results? And the guardian gave the same reason. He says, because we are the only ones who can do that. We can't do everything. A person cannot do everything and everything cannot be done by, and all people cannot do a thing and a person cannot do everything. That's why individual initiative and decentralized action is necessary, right? And yet we too run after strange things. So here, Baha'u'llah says what? First of all, you should know what your capacity and capability is. If we had just gotten this into our heads, half of our daily bickering about each other in our society will go away. How do we sit down and blame somebody else for my poverty, for my backwardness, for my blah, blah, from my blah, blah? Did I actually train myself to be somewhere else and better? No, because blaming the whole world is easier. So it says, you yourself should know your weaknesses, your strength. What will bring you wealth and what will bring you poverty? You should know this. You should have the discernment. Right? Daniel lived in India for a couple of years, right? So he was, one of the things he was like, it's just, he was so amazed because you go to certain markets and there is people, there are 10, 5, 6, 5, 4, 5, 6 people standing in a row selling handkerchiefs. They don't sell much, they don't make much, and they're extremely poor. But none of them decides to do something else. There are 10 people standing in a row selling handkerchiefs. How many people are going to buy handkerchiefs? If you sit down with most of them, they will blame the society and the world. No? Nobody cares about me. I'm poor. The society is corrupt. The society is this and that. Nobody gives me this. Nobody takes. What are you doing about yourself? Right? Make sense? You should know what brings poverty and wealth. You should know what brings you glory and abasement. You should know not to run after drugs. You should know not to sit down with wrong company. That you should know from a very young age. Something that brings darkness, stay away from it. Whatever brings light, go for it. Very simple, very, very simple way to judge. There is no culture, no religion in the world that says doing drugs is okay. There is no culture, no religion in the world that's saying that doing little petty crime is okay. So even if I'm a young person, teenager, stupid, why would I go hang out with a company who is into petty crimes and drugs and this kind of things? Why would I want to do that? And we know it's wrong. Even at that age, we know it's wrong. That's why we try to hide it from adults and from society and get engaged in it. Then when that destroys my life forever, I thought, it was just a little prank. It's a little whatever, this and that. No, no, no. Every action has consequence. And those consequences then destroy my life. And then I blame God and society for it. How do I justify myself? right? So don't get into wrong things and discern where is right and wrong and stick with the right stuff. Then be spiritual first. Be spiritual first means I'm living here. God has given me this life to live here, and I'm living according to how He wants me to live. Then I need wealth because to help others need money. To help myself needs money. Just to do these 2 classes needs money, even though you're not paying me, but I am paying my own money to get the time off to do this, to do the service, right? Whatever you're doing. You want to be generous, he says. You want to be hospitable. You invite somebody for 2 cups of tea, it takes money to provide the tea. To buy a pack of biscuits, right? I mean, at whatever level you want to serve, it takes resources. But those resources we get because we want to serve the way God wants us to serve. That's where the love of money for the sake of money is evil. But to get money so you can have the life of prosperity for yourself and for others who have been given into your hands, and according to the capacity to render it out because God wants it, that's absolutely praiseworthy and necessary, right? We are supposed to have travel teaching within the writings. You can't travel anywhere else if you don't have money, right? But that money should be acquired according to the righteous means, honest means, and according to your calling and your talents, and not grabbed it because you need it, right? All right. So that whole issue of let's all be poor has been taken out. Plus, there is another law that is a law of the Akdas that requires you to actually have means. What is that? That will itself propel you to try to have means. Money is just means, by the way, to other ends. Don't turn the money into its own end. What is that? There's a law in Akdas that would requires us to have better resources, better wealth. You must renew your furnishings of your house every 19 years. All right. How would you do that if you didn't really have? Yeah. All right. Okay, next.
We cherish the hope that through the loving kindness of the All-Wise, the All-Knowing, obscuring dust may be dispelled and the power of perception enhanced, that the people may discover the purpose for which they have been called into being. In this day, whatsoever serveth to reduce blindness and to increase vision is worthy of consideration. This vision acted as the agent and guide for the true knowledge. Indeed, in the estimation of men of wisdom, keenness of understanding is due to keenness of vision. The people of Baha must, under all circumstances, observe that which is meet and seemly and exhort the people accordingly.
Right? The whole thing we were discussing in the beginning of today's hours. Discern things. Learn to discern things. Learn to know where goodness and badness is. Learn to know where the problems are, where the root cause of problems are, not whatever the society is bickering about. Now, some things society bickers about are true, but most of the stuff is somewhere else. Why? Because if people could get to the actual juice of the answers on their own self without having the scripture and the manifestations, we would have done it. Until we were capable to resolving our issues, there was no need for the next manifestation to come. Always remember that. So often enough, unfortunately, the Baha'is will go, some Baha'is will say, don't worry about it. Baha'u'llah is going to resolve it on his own. Really? Is that what Baha'u'llah said? Is that why he came, suffered for 50 years and gave us 100 volumes of scriptures? If it's his job, he'll get it done. Why the hell are you and me here? What the hell are we doing? Why are we here? Can you you see how wrong that outlook and sentence is? And yes, he will do it, and he can do it on his own. Guess how? He will discard me and find somebody else. Find another human being who studies the writings and follows in his footsteps and does his bidding. That's how. And guess what? When you and I get there, we have nothing to offer to him. And if we don't have anything to offer to him, he has nothing to offer to you. Right? Okay, we only have a few minutes, so let's not read the next one. We'll start at the second taraz next time. Any other comments, thoughts?
I have a question.
Hmm?
In the Kitab-e-Aqdas, there is a para that in which Baha'u'llah tells O Karim. He tells something about O Karim. So I just wanted to know that who is the Karim that Baha'u'llah is talking about?
Okay, so before I answer you, I'll answer you next time, because I want you to learn how to find things yourself first. You have Ocean? Pull that
Yeah.
up. Or go into the notes and question answers and glossary of the Aqdas itself in the end of it, and see if it tells you what that is.
Okay.
In one or the other place it should. If you can't find it, we'll talk about it next time, right? So, and whenever you have a question, then note down which paragraph it is, number and stuff and all that, because notes are answered by the numbers of paragraphs. So know where it was mentioned, and then have the number of that and see if lots of those things are answered within the question. There is a question answer session, right? That is mostly about the laws that was answered by Baha'u'llah himself. And then there are notes section in the end of the Aqdas, and then there's glossary as well and stuff, and epilogue. Lots of those things are answering these things in there, right? So let's see if we can find out, and if not, then remind me and we'll talk about it next time. Yeah, good job. There is a cream that is mentioned in the Igan too. See if those are connected or not. Right. Good. All right. Anything else? Okay. Give our love to those who are missing, and we'll see you next week. Oh, Shimi, Farzana is not here, so do you remember Ruse? Naeem and Mayru, Naeem was in ISD, and May wasn't actually serving any department at that time because they had two girls, Nadia and Yasmin. Remember those? When we were serving, they were serving with us. No, they came. Yeah, they came the last year we were there. So yeah, yeah. Anyway, they're coming to visit in a few hours. So their daughters were 9 and 11 at that time. So the 11-year-old just got her first baby, and I'm like, oh my God, we are getting too old. Well, she was 11 then, so that's 15 years ago. So right. So yeah. Anyway, they're coming to visit. It's really good. All right.
I like that.
Love you guys.
Allah.
Love her.